Welcome to the Read, Write, Talk and Grow Club.
在 reading 的内容方面，包括 literature, history, culture, classic story, current events, 弥补移民家庭在这些方面言传身教的不足。另外，我们将针对 entrepreneurship, motivation, finance, leadership, mental health 引导孩子的兴趣，培养他们的专长。我们将提供个性化的写作指导，提升写作水平，培养写作兴趣。这里将鼓励学生参与课堂讨论，弥补华人孩子不太喜欢发言的不足。学习的内容与电视和电影有关，在趣味中学习。
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
Number 1. The Social Network 2010.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? You?
$1 billion.
In 2003, Harvard undergrad Mark Zuckerberg begins work on a new concept that eventually turns into the global social network known as Facebook.
这里将在知识、能力、性格多方面提升，让孩子全面健康的成长。
Welcome to the Read, Write, Talk and Grow Club.
So hello everyone. As Philip said, my name is Zoe, and I'm a teacher and tutor with a master's degree from the University of Edinburgh in the UK. As Philip said, I'm very happy to be presenting our new club, the Read, Write, Talk and Grow Club. So this has a few topics. We've got 2 classes that I teach on English literature on 2 different levels, and 1 class on inspiring kids to write. And since I've got a master's degree from England, I like to tie in a bit of UK history as well. So that's a little bit of background about my classes. So yeah, read, write, talk, and grow together. Our key themes here will be obviously reading books together, writing about them, discussing them, and growing in our analysis of literature together. So here's my online bio, just showing a bit that I've been teaching for many years, all types of different English classes, creative writing, and the language arts after I finished my degree. So just to talk to you all a little bit about the course, this is the first class I offer. This is a literature course on world building and adventure. So this is for grades 5 through 7. And here we look at 2 works. One is the very well-known book, The Hobbit, by J.R.R. Tolkien, which actually just became a movie pretty recently. And the other one here is Roald Dahl. He is also a very well-known English author, and he wrote, well, one of his many books here is The Twits. So with these 2, we can learn about creating fantasy worlds with The Hobbit and adventure stories with humor with The Twits, because Roald Dahl is a very humorous writer, which is very nice for students because they can see a different writing style with him. So this is just a little overview of how a class with me might begin. So for example, with The Twits, this would be a 2-week-long course. We'd read about 8 to 10 pages per weekday. And in my class, we would begin with a quote that each student would share, one quote that they found in the text that they like. And we talk about it together. Why did the student like the quote? What do other students think of the quote? And then we would go into discussion of the book. So for example, in week 1, with this specific book, we talk about themes like good versus evil. That's a big theme in this book. And we could talk about what was going on in England during the time that Roald Dahl was writing. So when the author was writing, what was happening and how did the history influence what he wrote about? So this is really teaching students skills to tie real life into literature and sort of understand how the 2 can relate. So that would be our first session. And in the next session in week 2, we would talk about more focused on the writing, different storytelling methods, why we use humor as a sort of coping mechanism why laughing at books makes us understand themes better. And then as a final activity, the students can write their own short story. So a humor short story to share with the class. So here's just a brief overview of class 1 literature for the lower levels. Okay. So next we have my second class, and this is literature at a bit of a higher level. So this is for grades 7 through 9. These are two very well-known works. We have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is actually the first Sherlock Holmes book. So here we're learning two different topics. One is the monster or the other in Frankenstein, and the other is detectives with Sherlock Holmes. So here's an overview of one of these classes. If we were focusing on Frankenstein, for instance, we'd be reading just about 20 pages a day, and it's quite interesting for students, this book, I think, for this grade, so it's not so bad. And for example, in week 1, we might talk about, once again, tying the history of the time into the book. So this was written during the Industrial Revolution in England. So here we'd focus on discovery and science, as well as kind of an attempt to go back to a simpler time. So this is sort of a romantic era. So we go back to a simpler time before the Industrial Revolution, sorry. So we'd have themes like, how does science tie into the book? Why is the author writing about creating entities, and how does the era tie into the writing? Okay, so week 2, we might do a little bit more. We'd go more in depth on that and learn about the Romantic era in England. Why is nature such a powerful force in this time? In week 3, we talk about a different theme, which is Frankenstein really a monster? What is the other? What is alienation and prejudice? And this actually ties very much into the students' own lives, because it's a theme in adolescents today as well. And for the activity here at the end of our session, we would do a book review or essay to see what students thought of this book. So this is my second class, literature at a higher level. Okay. And then I also will be offering a third class, which is before I go into the third class, this is a bit of an overview of the literature class. So the key things that both courses will do is number 1, obviously we'll be discovering English literature. Number 2 will be exploring literary devices. So each course will focus, as I said, on some sort of theme or literary device like symbolism or diction or something like this. So the students will learn all about different literary devices. This also helps to be very well read, because we learn classic books with well-known authors. And every day we'll be learning new vocabulary as well. And as I said, each course will start, or each lesson will start with the students sharing a quote. So this will make sure that everyone is participating and everyone is practicing their speaking skills all together in class. So these are our overall goals here with the literature course. Okay. So now we get into my third course, which is a little bit of a different theme. This is inspiring kids to write. So we learn about these two very famous books, The Tale of Despereaux and A Series of Unfortunate Events. And here we'll be discussing heroes, villains, and most importantly, the storytelling process. So these two books are geared sort of towards grades 5 or 6. So this will be a middle grade level writing course. So in this class, we'll read the books together. We'll start with quotes, the same as in the other two classes. Students will share a quote they found interesting from the homework reading. And that will be our opening discussion. And then we'll go into a theme. So for example, in one class, we may discuss the non-conventional hero. In another class, we'll talk about how to write a good villain. In the next class, we may learn how to develop a plot or set the scene. for all these different writing tropes that you need to know to be able to write really good stories. So by the end of this course, students will not only have a stronger vocabulary and a better idea of how the writing process works, but we'll also be able to write our own creative short story. So each student will write their own short story, which we'll go over together in the class. So that's really a very fun experience for students, and it allows you to learn creatively, which is always a fun thing. So each of these courses has a series of resources available. There's not only the physical books, which you can usually find on Lexile or on Amazon, but we also have, with each chapter of each book that we read, there's a set of vocabulary words, which we'll go over together so that we make sure each week someone or every student is learning something new. There's also audiobook files available through YouTube. So I'll share links to these with all the students so they can listen as well as read. This just provides an alternative method of taking in the literature. And as well as that, each of these books, or most of them, has also been made into a movie. So as well as listening and reading, the students can have a watching experience. So this provides them 3 different ways to take the information in, and also 3 different ways to discuss it together in class. So that's my Read, Write, Learn and Grow class. I'm very excited to be opening it and sharing it with all of you. And does anyone have any questions or comments for me?